At 3:23 a.m. on November 18, 2023, security cameras at a luxury Hawaiian resort captured footage that would send chills down investigators' spines. A man in a dark hoodie struggled through a side exit, dragging a large burgundy suitcase that seemed far too heavy for vacation luggage. 40 minutes later, he returned empty-handed, moving quickly, head down, desperate to disappear into the shadows. Just hours before, he'd checked into this paradise with his new bride. By morning, he checked out alone, claiming she'd decided to stay with friends. Her passport, phone, and wedding rings remained untouched in their room. But where was she? And what was really inside that suitcase? You are about to find out. Welcome to True Crime Journal HQ. Thanks to all our viewers and subscribers for your support. Stay with us for daily update on the most shocking true crime stories. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Amira Hassan grew up in the heart of Jumeirah, where the sound of the Arabian Gulf became the soundtrack to her childhood. Born in 1995 to a modest Lebanese Emirati family, she was the youngest of 3 daughters. Her father owned a small textile shop in Deira, while her mother taught Arabic at a local school. From an early age, Amira showed a natural talent for transforming spaces. At 12, she redesigned her shared bedroom, using nothing but fabric scraps from her father's shop and furniture she'd convinced neighbors to donate. Her sisters would joke that she could make a storage room look like a palace suite. School came naturally to Amira. She excelled in art and mathematics, a combination that seemed contradictory until her teachers realized she saw numbers as patterns and patterns as beauty. After graduating from Dubai International Academy, she earned a scholarship to study interior design at the American University of Dubai. By 23, she'd landed an internship at one of Business Bay's most prestigious design firms. 3 years later, she opened her own boutique studio, Amira Hassan Interiors, specializing in luxury residential projects. Her Instagram following grew to 47,000, showcasing elegant majlis rooms, modern kitchens with traditional touches, and her signature style, blending Khaliji heritage with contemporary minimalism. Omar al-Zahrani's story read differently. Born in Al-Barsha in 1992, he was the eldest son in a family of 5 children. His father worked as a mid-level government employee, and his mother stayed home. Omar felt the weight of expectations early. He was supposed to be the family's ticket to a better life. He studied finance at Heriot-Watt University, Dubai, graduating with decent grades but no distinction. While his classmates networked at beach clubs and rooftop bars, Omar took 2 part-time jobs to help support his siblings' education. After graduation, he joined a financial services firm in DIFC as a junior analyst. He worked long hours, desperate to climb the corporate ladder. By 30, he'd made senior analyst, earning a respectable salary of AED 28,000 monthly. To outsiders, Omar appeared successful. He drove a leased BMW, wore designer kanduras to Friday prayers, and frequented the better shisha cafes in Jumeirah. But beneath the polished exterior, he carried crushing pressure. His younger brothers expected him to fund their weddings. His parents wanted a villa. And Omar had developed an expensive habit, weekend trips to casino cruises in international waters, where he'd convinced himself he could double his money. They met in March 2023 at a mutual friend's yacht party in Dubai Marina. Amira arrived late, directly from a client meeting, still wearing her professional abaya and carrying fabric samples. Omar noticed her immediately, not just her beauty, but her confidence. She spoke about her business with passion, detailing a project for a client in Emirates Hills. Omar saw opportunity. Here was a woman who'd built something real, someone whose success could stabilize his crumbling finances. He pursued her relentlessly. Flowers delivered to her studio, reservations at Pirchish and Zuma, weekend drives to Hatta in his BMW. Amira, who'd focused on her career for years, found herself swept up in the attention. Her friends warned her they were moving too fast, but she saw a man who texted her good morning every day, who spoke about building a future, who seemed to worship the ground she walked on. 4 months after meeting, Omar proposed at the top of Burj Khalifa. 2 months later, they married at Burj Al Arab in a ceremony that cost AED 320,000, mostly funded by Amira's savings and her father's reluctant loan. The wedding photos showed a radiant bride and a groom who couldn't stop smiling. They moved into a 4-bedroom villa in Arabian ranches, drove matching Range Rovers, and posted couple photos that earned thousands of likes. But Amira's sister noticed things. The way Omar checked Amira's phone when she showered, how he'd question her about male clients, then apologize with expensive gifts, the time he convinced her to add his name to her business account for tax purposes. When Amira mentioned feeling controlled, Omar would flip the script. He was just protecting her. Didn't she understand how much he loved her? Wallah, he'd say, everything he did was for their future. What Amira didn't know, Omar owed AED $180,000 to loan sharks from his gambling losses, and he'd taken out a life insurance policy on his new bride worth AED $2.3 million, listing himself as the sole beneficiary. On November 15, 2023, Omar and Amira landed at Kahului Airport in Maui, both buzzing with excitement. The Maui Grand Resort exceeded even Amira's high standards: sprawling gardens, private beach access, and their ocean view suite on the 8th floor felt like something from a magazine. She immediately FaceTimed her sisters back in Dubai, showing off the massive balcony and king-sized bed draped in white linens. "This is heaven, Wallah," she squealed, her joy infectious. The first 2 days unfolded like a dream. They snorkeled at Molokini Crater, where Amira posted a selfie with a sea turtle, captioning it, "Making new friends in paradise." Omar seemed relaxed for the first time in months, holding her hand during sunset walks on Wiley Beach, feeding her bites of fresh poke at the hotel restaurant. Her Instagram stories documented every moment: tropical smoothies by the pool, couples massage at the spa, Omar surprising her with a flower crown from a local vendor. Her followers flooded the comments with heart emojis and mashallah responses. "Where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments below." But November 17th started differently. At breakfast, Omar seemed distracted, checking his phone constantly. When Amira asked if everything was okay, he snapped that she should stop questioning him. He apologized minutes later, blaming work stress, though they'd agreed to no business during the honeymoon. That afternoon, while Amira shopped for souvenirs in the hotel boutique, Omar made a phone call that would later become crucial evidence. He spoke to someone for 17 minutes. The call was traced to a number registered to a loan collection agency in Dubai. That evening, they had dinner reservations at the resort's signature restaurant, Kai Ocean. The hostess later told investigators that the couple seemed tense. Amira barely touched her macadamia nut-crusted mahi-mahi, while Omar drank 3 whiskeys before their entrees arrived. Other diners noticed raised voices toward the end of their meal, though the words weren't clear. They left the restaurant at 8:52 p.m., according to the receipt. Back in room 847, the tension exploded. Guests in the adjacent room, a retired couple from California, reported hearing a man shouting, "You don't understand what I'm dealing with," followed by a woman's voice pleading, "Just talk to me, Habibi, please." The argument intensified around 9:30 p.m. Furniture moved, something glass shattered, then a woman crying. The couple considered calling the front desk, but hesitated, not wanting to intrude on what seemed like a marital dispute. At 9:47 p.m., Amira posted her final Instagram story. It showed her left hand with her wedding rings catching the light, the ocean visible through the balcony doors behind her. The caption read, "Forever, Inshallah." 23 people viewed it within minutes. By 10:15 p.m., the neighboring guests reported that room 847 had gone completely silent. Not the peaceful quiet of sleep, but the heavy, unsettling silence that follows a storm. If you've made it to this point, drop a comment with "I'm still here." Let's see who's still watching. That silence would last until 3:23 a.m., when security cameras captured Omar leaving their room with a burden no husband should carry. If you're enjoying this content, like, subscribe, and share it with your loved ones to protect them from the same tragedy happening to them in the future. What happened between 11 p.m. on November 17th and dawn on November 18th would become the subject of intense forensic reconstruction. Investigators later pieced together a timeline so chilling it defied comprehension. At 11:47 p.m., hotel security logs showed Omar's keycard accessing room 847. The neighboring guests had already gone to bed, but the husband woke briefly around midnight to use the bathroom. He heard muffled conversation from next door, one voice pleading, another cold and measured. He couldn't make out the words, but remembered thinking the tone felt wrong, clinical almost. He went back to sleep. At 12:23 a.m., Omar placed a call to his younger brother, Khalid, in Dubai. The call lasted 9 minutes. Phone records would later reveal that Omar said he'd made a terrible mistake and needed advice on making something disappear. Khalid, groggy and confused, told investigators he thought his brother was talking about a financial problem or damaged rental car. He advised Omar to just deal with it in the morning and hung up. That conversation would haunt Khalid for the rest of his life. By 1:30 a.m., room 847 had gone completely silent. The wife next door woke to use the bathroom and noticed. She told police she couldn't explain why, but the quiet felt thick, suffocating, like the air pressure had changed. She checked the time on her phone, 1:31 a.m. She lay awake for 20 minutes before drifting back to sleep. At 2:15 a.m., Omar walked into Maui Hardware Supply, a 24-hour store 15 minutes from the resort. The night clerk, a college student named Jake Morrison, remembered him clearly. Guy came in wearing a hotel bathrobe under a jacket, which was weird, Jake testified later. He asked for heavy-duty chains and a padlock, bought the strongest we had, marine-grade steel, rated for boat anchors, paid cash, didn't make eye contact, just kept saying he needed to secure equipment for an early morning boat trip. The receipt time stamped at 2:18 a.m. showed Omar purchased one 15-foot marine chain, 2 heavy-duty padlocks, and a roll of duct tape. Total cost, $67.43. Jake watched him leave in a white rental sedan that security footage later confirmed was registered to Omar. Omar returned to the Maui Grand Resort at 2:47 a.m., parking in a dimly lit corner of the lot, farthest from the main entrance. Security cameras caught him retrieving something large from the trunk, the items from the hardware store, and entering through a side service door that required a key card. Most guests didn't even know that entrance existed. Then came 3:23 a.m. The footage that would change everything showed Omar emerging from that same service exit. He wore a dark hoodie pulled low, nearly covering his face, and dark sweatpants, but it was what he carried that froze investigators' blood. Amira's burgundy suitcase, the one she'd been so excited about, a gift from her sisters before the wedding, dragged behind him on its wheels, but the wheels barely turned. The suitcase was so heavy that Omar had to stop every few meters, repositioning his grip, his body language screaming exertion. At one point, he lifted it to carry it down 3 steps near the parking area. His arms shook. He nearly dropped it. The sound of the suitcase hitting the concrete was captured on audio. A dull, sickening thud that made the security guard reviewing the footage weeks later physically ill. Omar loaded the suitcase into his rental car with difficulty, having to push and angle it into the trunk. At 3:26 a.m., the car left the property, heading west toward the coastal highway. At 4:09 a.m., Omar returned. Same service entrance, same hoodie, but this time his hands were empty. He moved quickly now, almost jogging, head down, shoulders hunched. He went straight to room 847 and didn't emerge again until morning checkout. But what the cameras captured next would seal his fate. At 4:47 a.m., a different security camera, one positioned at the main resort entrance, recorded Omar stepping outside in different clothes, khaki shorts and a polo shirt. He stood on the front steps for 3 minutes, staring at the ocean as the first hints of dawn colored the sky. Then he went back inside, packed his belongings, and waited for a respectable checkout time. At 6:47 a.m. on November 18th, Omar approached the front desk with 2 bags, his own luggage and a small backpack. The receptionist, Maria Gonzalez, greeted him with her usual cheerful professionalism. "Checking out early, Mr. Alzarani? I hope you and your wife enjoyed your stay." Omar's response came too quickly, too rehearsed. "Yes, yes. Wonderful time. Actually, my wife decided to extend her stay. She's meeting some friends on the Big Island, university classmates, surprise reunion. I have to get back to Dubai for work, unfortunately. He laughed, but Maria would later describe it as hollow, forced. His eyes never met hers. Instead, he kept glancing at the security camera above the desk, angling his body away from it. Oh, that's lovely for her. Should I split the bill or... No, I'll handle everything. Cash is fine, correct? Omar pulled out a thick envelope of American dollars. Maria noticed his hands trembled slightly as he counted the bills. For a man who supposedly worked in finance, he seemed nervous handling money. Of course, sir. Will Mrs. Al-Zarani need the room for additional nights? No, she's already checked into another hotel. All arranged. Omar signed the checkout paperwork with a signature that looked nothing like the one from check-in. Investigators would later confirm this through handwriting analysis. He grabbed his bags and left through the main entrance at 6:53 a.m., caught one final time on camera climbing into a taxi. Have you ever had a feeling that something was terribly wrong? That's exactly what the hotel staff felt. Maria couldn't shake her unease. She mentioned it to her supervisor during the shift change, but they agreed it wasn't their business. Couples have arguments. Plans change. Still, something felt off. At 2:17 p.m., housekeeping supervisor Linda Chen knocked on room 847. The Do Not Disturb sign had been hanging there for over 16 hours, which wasn't unusual for honeymooners, but checkout had passed hours ago. She used her master key and called out as she entered. The room was pristine, bed made, no towels on the floor. But on the dresser sat Amira's belongings, arranged with unsettling precision. Her passport, her iPhone still plugged into the charger at 84% battery, her wedding rings placed carefully on top of a folded prayer mat, her favorite Chanel perfume, her AirPods, even her house keys to their villa in Arabian ranches. Everything that defined Amira Hassan's identity sat there untouched. Everything except her burgundy suitcase. Linda's stomach dropped. She'd cleaned hotel rooms for 12 years and had never seen anything like this. No woman leaves her passport and wedding rings behind. No one abandons their phone. She immediately called security. Where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments below. Hotel management reviewed Omar's checkout story and the room's condition. Within 30 minutes, they contacted Maui Police Department. Detective Robert Kaimana arrived at 3:45 p.m. and within 5 minutes of entering room 847, he knew they were dealing with something far worse than a missing person. If you've made it to this point, drop a comment with "I'm still here." Let's see who's still watching. They had less than 6 hours before Omar's flight to Dubai would put him beyond easy reach. If you're enjoying this content, like, subscribe, and share it with your loved ones to protect them from the same tragedy happening to them in the future. Detective Robert Kaimana had worked homicides for 17 years, but the moment he stepped into room 847, his instincts screamed foul play. He immediately called for backup and forensic teams. By 4:30 p.m., the Maui Police Department had launched a full missing person investigation that everyone knew would likely become a murder case. The first breakthrough came from hotel parking records. Omar had told the front desk they'd been using taxis and shuttles, yet records showed a white Toyota Camry rental registered under his name, parked in space C47 since November 16th. Amira had no idea her husband had rented a separate vehicle. When investigators contacted Island Rentals Hawaii, the employee remembered Omar specifically requesting a car with a large trunk. He kept asking about trunk capacity, the employee stated. Said he needed to transport equipment. I thought it was odd for a honeymooner. Detective Kaimana immediately requested GPS data from the rental company. What came back made his blood run cold. At 3:34 a.m. on November 18th, the vehicle had traveled to Kahakuloa Point, a remote coastal area known for its dramatic cliffs and treacherous currents. The car remained stationary at those coordinates for 37 minutes before returning toward the resort. The timeline matched the CCTV footage with terrifying precision. Omar left the hotel at 3:26 a.m. with the suitcase. The GPS showed arrival at the cliffs at 3:34 a.m., departure at 4:11 a.m., and security cameras captured his return at 4:09 a.m. By 6 p.m., investigators had obtained the hardware store footage. Jake Morrison, the night clerk, positively identified Omar from a photo array. That's definitely him. Marine-grade chains, 2 padlocks, duct tape. Paid $67.43 in cash at 2:18 a.m. The receipt was still in the store's system. When asked what someone would use those items for, Jake's response was chilling. Those chains, they're designed to anchor boats in storms. Nothing's breaking free from those. The forensic team's analysis of room 847 revealed microscopic blood spatter on the bathroom tile, barely visible to the naked eye, but clear under luminol. They found cleaned surfaces that showed residue of industrial bleach, which the hotel confirmed wasn't part of their standard cleaning supplies. Someone had attempted a thorough cleanup. Hair samples matching Amira's were collected, along with fiber evidence that would later prove crucial. Where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments below. At 7:15 p.m., investigators learned that Omar had boarded United Airlines Flight 1247 to San Francisco at 10:30 a.m. that morning, with a connecting flight to Dubai departing at 3 p.m. He was already over the Pacific Ocean, 12 hours into his escape. Detective Kaimana immediately contacted FBI field offices and Interpol, requesting an international arrest warrant. By 9 p.m., the U.S. Coast Guard had deployed 2 cutters to Kahakuloa Point. The area was known for depths exceeding 200 feet in some sections, with underwater caves and strong currents that could carry objects miles from where they entered the water. A specialized dive team from Honolulu was dispatched, arriving at first light on November 19th. Meanwhile, Detective Kaimana contacted Dubai Police Criminal Investigation Department through official channels. The cooperation was immediate and comprehensive. Lieutenant Colonel Ahmed Al-Mansouri, heading the International Crimes Unit, confirmed they would have officers waiting at Dubai International Airport when Omar landed. "We take care of our own," he told Kaimana. "If this man harmed an Emirati woman, he will face justice. Here or there, it doesn't matter. We'll make sure of it. Walla, what would you do if you discovered your neighbor did something like this?" The dive operation at Kahakuloa Point began at 6 a.m. on November 19th. The water was murky, visibility poor, and the current dangerous. Divers worked in shifts, searching a grid pattern based on the GPS coordinates and ocean current models. The first day yielded nothing. Neither did the second. If you've made it to this point, drop a comment with "I'm still here." Let's see who's still watching. On November 21st, 3 days after Amira disappeared, diver Marcus Kalani descended to 73 feet. His flashlight caught something burgundy, wedged between 2 coral formations. He swam closer, and his heart sank. It was a suitcase, wrapped in chains, exactly where Omar thought it would stay hidden forever. If you're enjoying this content, like, subscribe, and share it with your loved ones to protect them from the same tragedy happening to them in the future. Marcus Kalani had been a commercial diver for 8 years, working everything from ship repairs to underwater construction. But on November 21st at 9:47 a.m., 73 feet below the surface off Kahakuloa Point, he encountered something that would give him nightmares for years to come. The suitcase was wedged between 2 coral formations, Marcus testified later, his voice shaking. "At first I thought maybe it had drifted there naturally, but then I saw the chains. 2 separate chains, crisscrossed and padlocked at multiple points. Nobody goes through that much effort unless they're trying to make sure something never surfaces." The recovery operation took 3 hours. The suitcase was so securely anchored that divers needed hydraulic cutters to remove the chains. When they finally brought it to the surface, the weight was immediately apparent. It took 2 crew members to lift it onto the Coast Guard vessel. Water drained from the seams as they carefully transported it to the Marine Forensic Lab in Honolulu. Dr. Sarah Kimura, the medical examiner, opened the suitcase at 4:15 p.m. with law enforcement present. What they found confirmed everyone's worst fears. Inside were Amira Hassan's remains, compressed into an impossibly small space. The autopsy would later reveal she died from blunt force trauma to the head, consistent with being struck with a heavy object. Time of death was estimated between midnight and 2 a.m. on November 18th. Forensic evidence inside the suitcase proved devastating for Omar's potential defense. Fibers from the hotel room carpet were embedded in Amira's clothing. Her blood matched the microscopic spatter found on the bathroom tile. Most damning, fragments of a marble desk lamp from room 847 were found with the body, the same lamp that was missing from the room's inventory when investigators checked. DNA analysis confirmed what everyone already knew. The chains and padlocks matched Omar's fingerprints exclusively. Not smudged, not partial, clear, full prints from someone who hadn't bothered wearing gloves. The duct tape bore impressions of his palm prints. Even the rental car's trunk showed traces of Amira's DNA and fibers matching the suitcase lining. Meanwhile, at Dubai International Airport on November 19th at 6:23 a.m. local time, Omar walked through customs with the confidence of a man who believed he'd gotten away with murder. He'd rehearsed his story during the long flight. Amira had decided to stay in Hawaii with friends. He'd left early for work commitments. Everything was fine. Lieutenant Colonel Ahmed al-Mansouri and 4 officers were waiting at the arrival gate. "Omar al-Zahrani?" Ahmed asked, though he already knew the answer. "Yes, that's me. Is there a problem?" "You're under arrest for the suspected murder of Amira Hassan. You have the right to remain silent." Omar's face went white. "What?" No, there's been a mistake. My wife is in Hawaii. She's fine. Call her." His voice rose to a shout. "This is crazy. I didn't do anything." They took him to CID headquarters in Bur Dubai. For 6 hours, Omar maintained his innocence, demanding a lawyer, insisting Amira was alive, and this was all a misunderstanding. He claimed he'd left Hawaii because of work emergencies, that his wife had extended her vacation, that they'd had a wonderful honeymoon. Then Lieutenant Colonel Ahmed placed crime scene photos on the table. The suitcase, the chains, the GPS data, the hardware store receipt, the CCTV footage showing him struggling with the weight at 3:23 a.m. Omar stared at the images. His hands began to shake. His breathing became rapid. Then he broke. What he confessed next shocked even seasoned investigators. "I needed the money." 4 words that reduced a beautiful life to a transaction. Omar's confession laid bare a web of lies that had ensnared Amira from the moment they met. The gambling habit he'd hidden so carefully, weekend trips he'd called business conferences, were actually casino cruises departing from international waters. He'd lost AED 180,000 over 18 months, borrowed from loan sharks who didn't accept excuses. The BMW, the designer canduras, the lavish lifestyle, all facades built on crumbling credit. But the most calculated deception emerged through financial records investigators obtained from Al-Watani Insurance. 2 months before their Burj Al Arab wedding, Omar had taken out a life insurance policy on his bride-to-be, AED 2.3 million, with himself as sole beneficiary. The application claimed Amira requested the coverage for business protection purposes. She'd never seen the paperwork. Omar had forged her signature. Handwriting analysts would later confirm this with 99.7% certainty. The policy required 6 months before full payout, explaining why Omar had waited. The Hawaii honeymoon wasn't romance. It was opportunity. International waters, unfamiliar jurisdiction, a chance to make it look like a tragic accident far from home. Lieutenant Colonel Ahmed discovered the most heartbreaking detail while examining Amira's phone records. On November 17th at 7:34 p.m., just hours before she died, she'd received an email notification from the insurance company about a policy review. She'd opened it at 8:12 p.m., likely during dinner when Omar was in the bathroom. She'd searched life insurance without consent UAE at 8:47 p.m. Amira had discovered the truth. That's what sparked the argument guests heard. That's why she'd posted that final Instagram story, "Forever Inshallah," with a desperate hope that somehow things would work out. The trial began in Dubai courts on March 3, 2024. Amira's father, broken and aged 10 years in 4 months, read his victim impact statement. "She called me the day before they left for Hawaii, said she was the happiest she'd ever been. I told her to enjoy paradise. I sent my daughter to her death." Her sisters couldn't speak through their tears. Her mother sat silent, clutching Amira's prayer mat. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence: GPS data, CCTV footage, forensic reports, the insurance policy, phone records, witness testimonies. Omar's defense attempted to claim temporary insanity, but premeditation was undeniable. On April 27, 2024, the verdict came. Guilty of first-degree murder. Life imprisonment. No possibility of parole. Omar showed no emotion. In the gallery, Amira's mother whispered a prayer for her daughter's soul. The ripples of Amira's death spread far beyond two families torn apart by unthinkable loss. Omar's parents moved from Al-Barsha, unable to face neighbors who'd once congratulated them on their son's marriage. His younger brothers struggled with shame and survivor's guilt, Khalid especially, haunted by that midnight phone call he'd dismissed. Amira's father closed his textile shop, spending his days at her grave in the cemetery near Jumeirah. Her sisters deleted their social media accounts, unable to bear the constant reminders of wedding photos and happier times. But from tragedy came change. In September 2024, the UAE Ministry of Community Development introduced mandatory premarital counseling that includes financial disclosure requirements. Couples must now present verified financial statements before marriage registration. Insurance companies face stricter regulations. Policies exceeding AED 1 million on spouses require both signatures witnessed by independent notaries. Amira's case highlighted warning signs many dismiss: excessive phone monitoring, isolating partners from friends, rushed timelines from meeting to marriage, financial secrecy, controlling behavior disguised as protection. Her story became required material in UAE relationship education programs. Technology proved decisive in achieving justice. GPS tracking, CCTV footage, phone records, forensic analysis, each digital footprint Omar left became evidence he couldn't erase. The case demonstrated how modern investigative tools cross borders, connecting Hawaiian police with Dubai authorities within hours. In November 2024, Amira's sisters established the Amira Hassan Foundation, partnering with Dubai Foundation for Women and Children. The organization provides confidential financial counseling, legal support, and emergency resources for women sensing danger in relationships. Within 6 months, they'd helped 43 women escape potentially harmful situations. Where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments below. If you made it to this point, drop a comment with "I'm still here." Let's see who is still watching. If you're enjoying this content, like, subscribe, and share it with your loved ones to protect them from the same tragedy happening to them in the future. Has something like this happened in your community? What could Amira have done differently? When does love become blindness? These questions haunt everyone who learns her story. Trust should never mean surrendering your safety. Paradise turned into a nightmare because one man valued money over a human life. But truth surfaced from 73 feet below the ocean, proving that justice can reach anywhere. Amira Hassan deserved the forever she believed in. Her story reminds us, listen to your instincts, watch for warning signs, and never ignore that voice inside telling you something's wrong. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Should there be stricter laws around sudden marriages? Stay safe out there, trust your gut, protect yourself and those you love. Next time on True Crime Journal HQ, we explore another case that shocked the world. You won't want to miss it.